Okay, once we have the holes drilled in our plastic, the next step for the picture frame is actually going to be forming our holder, or bending the plastic with the assistance of some heat here to get things set up so that we can put a picture in it. The plastic has paper on it, like sticky paper. You want to try and keep the paper on this as long as you possibly can, because once you pull it off, the plastic then becomes vulnerable to scratching and chipping and all those things. So as best you can, you want to try and maintain that. This heater actually has a little red line that's drawn across the end of it. Down in here is the heating element. Right now it's actually hot. If I touch it, obviously it's going to burn me. It's kind of like a toaster oven. But what we can see is that if we start heating up plastic, it then becomes somewhat flexible in that one spot where it's sitting over the top of the heater, which is what we're going to try and do here. So we need to make two bends. We need to bend the base, and then we also need to bend the top. So the first bend is going to be for the base. So if you look here, I have my two holes, and then this piece is sitting over the top of the heating element. So it takes probably about 2 or 3 minutes for it to warm up to a point where it becomes this flexible. Okay? And you could reheat it if you had to. That's kind of the nice thing about the plasticity of this hole. So what I'm going to do first for the base is I'm going to take it, and I usually hold it in one hand, and I kind of use 2 fingers. Now, I want to try and choose an angle that makes sense. I don't want it to be too far back. It's going to look weird because the picture's actually going to be sitting in here. I don't want it to be too upright because that would also look weird. So I'm going to choose an angle that's probably somewhere in the vicinity of about 60 degrees or so. When I hand this to my students, I'll usually tell them to go over to the sink or something like it to run it under the water, because water works really well to take heat away. The faster I take the heat away from this, the faster it's going to set up. So what I have is just like a little bucket of water here, and I can show you that this is still a little bit flexible, but if I take it and put it in the water here for only about 5 seconds or so, it then sets the angle. This guy is now stuck at that angle, which I like. That's a good angle. So for display purposes, I'm already to step 2 over here on this guy. So then after I had my base done, I would come back and put this back on here. Now again, after I leave it for about 2 minutes over the heating element, it's going to start to become flexible again. Here, there's a line of it. Now I'm going to make the bend that's actually going to hold the picture in place. And there's 2 ways to kind of sort of do that. So once this gets warm enough, which it's getting pretty close here, about another 30 seconds or so. Sometimes I'll tell my students to bring it over to one of the vices that's here on the table. You can use the vise to help you to kind of pinch it together, and you'll see what I mean with that in a second when I get back over here. So once this gets warm enough and flexible enough, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it all the way back. I'm going to make a full 180 turn here, so you can see it's hot. If I touch up here, I'm going to burn myself. So you see how far my fingers are away from that hot edge there. Okay, but I want to hold it relatively tight here, so that if I do slide a picture in here, the picture doesn't just fall out the side. So I want to try and like pinch it so that it stays together pretty well. This can be hard, it can be a little bit hot, so if you wanted to, you could take it and use the vise to kind of assist you a little bit in holding this together while it cools. Now, if I come down on this real hard, it's going to snap the plastic. It's still plastic. If you don't want to use the vise, you don't have to. You can use your fingers. You can hold on to it like this. And then I could do the same thing where I take this and I put it underneath the sink in the water in the classroom, and that will suck the heat out of it really fast, and then this edge will be set, so I will actually have my picture holder here. So now, this guy is pretty much ready to go. So let me see if I can get my one with holes in it to be set up. And then in the next video, I think right here, I will show you how to screw this guy actually onto the base.